Today I'm playing Caveman games, or Caveman Olympics for the NES, released in 1990 for the NES and a few years earlier for the Commodore 64 and MS-DOS. These games were ultimately released by Electronic Arts and Data East. We have a multiplayer game, and up to 6 people can play in a tournament, but it's not like all 6 of those players can play on the screen at the same time. A few of the games you can play 2 people at once, and a few of them are just going to be solo games where you trade off. As the title suggests, this is a game filled with a series of mini-games. We get 6 games in total, and each has their own expected mechanics. They're all going to control slightly different, and some of these are certainly harder than others. You can play in a tournament, of course, or you can practice any game individually. I would recommend starting with the individual games. If you jump right into a tournament without practice, I don't expect you're going to do that well. It's not like these are particularly hard, but they all handle very different, and that's kind of confusing. You get to choose between one of 6 different characters, and when you do, you're going to get a dossier on the character that you're about to pick. This part was unexpected and kinda clever, I suppose. It just gives you some backstory. It's not needed, but I don't know, it's flavor, I suppose. Out of the 6 characters you can choose, some of them are supposed to be harder to use than others, and a few of them are particularly good at 1 or 2 of the individual events. I'll go through these games in no particular order. The friend toss is probably a good place to start. You drag a person, I'm guessing a friend, out across a playing field, and then you lift them up and start spinning them around. You're going to swirl the gamepad counterclockwise at an increasing speed, and when you hit maximum, you're going to press the A button, and hopefully you're at the right angle, and then you launch your friend out across the zone. They're going to float far and away, and then they're going to start bouncing until they come to a stop. Then you get a score, and hopefully it is a distance that is further along than your competitor. Dino Vault is a game you would probably figure out if you thought about it. You're going to be pole vaulting over a dinosaur. You press the A button to run, and when you're up hopefully to max speed, you're going to press the B button to plant your pole. You need to hold the B button until you're at the right spot in the bend of your pole, and then you release it. This gets you to spring up and hopefully over the dinosaur. I first fell into the crevasse a bunch of times, and eventually I held on to B long enough to get a good arc. It's really just holding it for a second, to be honest, but when you finally figure it out, and you make your first good launch over the dinosaur, I have to say it feels pretty good. I'm not exactly sure how far you can get with this one. I mean, I don't know how much variety you can get based on where you're planting the end of your pole. Obviously, you're trying to launch yourself as far as possible. Who knows? But once you get over once or twice, it's pretty good. The Saber Race is the next game, and this is you trying to outrun a competitor and a saber-toothed tiger at the same time. You're going to mash the A button to run as fast as you can, and when you get next to the other runner, you can press B, and I think it's your gamepad forward or backwards, and you're going to grab your opponent and throw them behind you towards the saber-toothed tiger. It's a cruel, cheating behavior that is strangely funny when you fall so far back that somebody gets eaten by a dinosaur. The computer is not afraid to do this to you, so don't feel bad when you do it to them. I think the Fire Starter competition was one of the first games I actually did successfully. You press the A button to rub the sticks together, and eventually, sparks are going to start to get created and they're going to fall to the campfire. And when they do, you press down on the gamepad to blow on the sparks. You do this enough, at the right cadence, and you're going to get a flare. And then if you push up on the gamepad to take a breath, you push down to blow. And if you figure out the right length of your inhales and exhales doing this, you're going to turn the spark into an open flame. And when you do it right, the flame is going to flare up and you're going to scorch your face, and you're left with an interesting, amusing cartoon image of you being burned in front of a fireplace. The Dino Race is probably my least favorite out of all of these. I don't have the controls down on this one. You press the A button to get moving, and you press B to jump. You need to run fast to jump over obstacles, which are going to be small stones or maybe large stones. And if you're not going fast enough, the dinosaur is just going to stop in place, or it's going to totally trip over the obstacle. when you get going fast enough, you can press the control pad right, and the dinosaur is going to take over. They're just going to run and jump over obstacles, no problem. It's like on autopilot. But it's only temporary, and you can't do this for the whole race. If you try to do it too much, the dinosaur is going to stop and walk in the wrong direction. I think this means probably you can figure that you can do it twice in a race. 3 times seems to be where I have a problem. Also, having this automatic function makes me wonder if it was actually a planned idea, or an afterthought to a game that has a particularly confusing handling scheme. I have no idea. I'm just guessing that maybe it was easier to do this than to try to make it better to play. But like I said, I don't know. This is definitely my least favorite of all the competitions. But then there's a clubbing contest that I find to not be that difficult, when you're against the computer at least. You start the match with an intimidation phase, which is kind of confusing. According to the manual, you press in different directions and you flail about before the match. Apparently this increases your chances of winning, but who knows? I can't tell. When you get to the fighting section, you just walk up to your opponent and you press the A button and up or down, and you're just directing where you're clubbing. You can also press and hold the A button to try and distract them, like you'll point in the distance and maybe they look. It's weird. This game doesn't feel that hard. I just keep hitting them in the head or the legs, and I keep pushing forward, and it keeps pushing them back on the platform, and eventually they fall off the edge and I get the win. The fighting isn't really complex enough here for me, and I do wish this one had some more options just with you swinging the club anyway. It seems like all you can really do is swing up or down. Well, that's all the mini games in the cart. It's an interesting sort of game. I mean, I like the theme, and it was fun enough to play, I guess, but it's one of those games where the real fun is probably you playing with your friends and taunting them through the competition. This particular game did end up on a few different consoles, and I'm interested in checking out the Commodore 64 version because that system has fewer buttons on the controller, so I wonder how they managed to make it work. Well, that's all I have today for Caveman games, or in some systems it's Caveman Olympics for the NES. Thanks for stopping by for a look, and I hope to catch you on another video.